Hey y'all, today on the menu we have hamburger steak with gravy. So to start out with, we're going to take 2 packs, this is just 1 pound packs of ground beef right from the Walmart, and just make sure that your hands are good and clean before you start touching on the food. And if you have an aversion to touching meat like this, y'all, feel free to put a glove on or, whatever you want to do. Now, I like to break my meat up, and all I'm doing is kind of crumbling it because I don't want these hamburgers to kind of have that really packed consistency of like a meatball, because I don't like meatballs, y'all. But that's another story for another day. We're not going to talk about that right now. So I just went ahead and crumbled it up. Now I went ahead and washed my hands, of course, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this meat seasoned up. So I started out with a little bit of garlic powder, and then I'm going to add in some onion powder. And then we're going to add us a little bit of Uncle Tony's. We're going to put a little bit of that Creole seasoning in there, add a little more flavor. And then we're going to add some pepper and just a little bit of salt, because we're going to add something else. And, some of the other things that we add in here, may have a little salt too. So we don't want to add a ton of salt to this. So just a little bit will be fine. So once we add that, now we're going to go ahead and add in some onion soup mix. And I know I'm fancy, I have the Lipton, but feel free to use the Great Value because that's what I normally get, but they didn't have any. So then we're going to add about roughly, because I didn't measure it, but it's about maybe a tablespoon-ish of Worcestershire salt. See, I can't say it, y'all. Worcestershire. Worcestershire. Y'all know what it is. And then you're going to add 1 egg. Now, you can add some breadcrumbs if you would like to, but again, I don't want this to be meatball-ish. So I just added 1 little egg, and that's not really much egg for this amount of meat. So what you're going to do is just go ahead and kind of stir this around. I sped this up so it looks like I'm just mangling it, but I'm not. I'm just still crumpling the meat and just trying to make sure that everything gets really good and incorporated in there. But I don't want to, just overwork it and squeeze the meat to death. So once you get your meat seasoned up and you get it all mixed up good, you're going to go ahead, and since I had 2 packs of ground beef, I'm going to make 8 patties. So you're just going to go ahead, and however you make a patty, I just try not to overwork them, like I said, too much right here. And then I try to kind of press them out a little bit. I don't want them real thick because I want them to cook, and I don't really like thick hamburgers. But you see them little pieces of onion from that onion soup mix? Y'all, these burgers have a ton of flavor. So you're just going to go ahead and get your burgers all made up. And like I said, this will make 8, but now if you like smaller burgers, you can definitely make them smaller. If you like a thicker burger, you can make them thicker. Do them, however you like them, however your family likes them. Just make the patties. That's basically the thing. So once you get your little patties all made, you're going to just set them over to the side, wash your hands up real good, and then we're going to get some onion cut up. Now you can leave this onion in rings if you want to. I just kind of sliced it in half rings, because that's just the way that I like mine. Now you can also feel free to dice them if you want to. I like the flavor of the onion, and I like the pieces of onion in mine. I had a little bad spot I had to cut off, y'all. But so that's why I did mine this way. Now, also, you really only need 1 onion for this, but because I really like onion, I went ahead and did 2. And that's a lot of onion, y'all. But you know what? Turns out fine. It's fabulous and it's wonderful. So, once you get your onion all chopped up, just put it over to the side. You're going to use it in a minute, and we're going to go ahead and add just a tiny bit of oil to your cast iron skillet or whatever skillet you're using, and that'll help keep, your burgers from sticking down to your pan. And then you're just going to cook. For me, the size of my skillet, I just cooked 4 of these at a time. And you don't necessarily have to cook them completely through, but I pretty much did because I had my fire too hot. So, but that's okay. It turned out fine. They're not burned, I promise. They're just very seasoned. They're very cooked, y'all. but that's okay because I don't mind mine like that. And we're going to put them down in gravy in a minute, so don't worry about them being dried out if you turn your pan on too hot like I did. So once you get all your burgers cooked up, look at how much grease I had left in this pan. Well, I got to get something to touch it with first because it was hot. But you're going to have a lot of grease left over, and you do not need all that grease to make the gravy. So I went over and I poured out the majority of that oil that was left in there. I just left a little bit, just enough to pretty much cover the bottom of my pan, because I'm going to go ahead now and saute these onions up. And you're going to go ahead and just cook these. Now you can put them in there. You can break them up before you put them in your pan or however you want to do them. But they will break up, break apart as they cook, from each other. See, like that. So once I get mine to about this stage, I go ahead and drop a half a stick of butter in, because we need something to make our roux with, to make our gravy, right? So I'll go ahead and I would cook these down, and that way the onions can kind of soak up some of that butter flavor too. And since I had so many onions, I went ahead and just pushed my onions over to one side. Now, this is I think about a third of a cup. I think that was a third cup, like measuring cup. So I started out with just a little bit, stirred it in to see how much flour I was going to need, because you don't want to add too much. And I needed a little more, so I added some more and I stirred it around a little bit. And then I was like, well, I ain't got but just a tiny bit left, so I just went ahead and dumped the rest of it in there. So I used about a third of a cup of flour for this, y'all. And that's exactly how I wanted it, where you can see the bottom of that pan. So go ahead and just cook this down for a couple of minutes until your flour is cooked, because you don't want this to taste like flour. So I just cook it down till it browns up a little bit. And then I go ahead and add some beef broth to it. Now start out slow, because you don't, if you get it too watery at this point, you can't really do much to it to thicken it back up, other than just cooking it. So I just add a little bit of beef broth at a time. And I think that container had about a cup in it, and then I added a can, because I only had a little bit left in that box. So about a can and a cup is what I ended up using. And I made a good bit of gravy because I had a bunch of burgers. And the only reason I cooked this many, because y'all know it's just me and the cat here, and he don't eat hamburger steak and gravy. But my son was going to come over after work and get some. And I had somebody ask me, why did my son not live with me? And I don't know if y'all don't realize, but my children are both grown. So my son doesn't live with me because he's a grown man and he has his own house. So that's the answer to that question for y'all. So anyway, once you get your burgers all cooked and your gravy made up, you're going to go ahead and just put your burgers right down in your gravy. And I like to kind of flip mine around so they're kind of covered with gravy on both sides. And then I just let them simmer for about 15-20 minutes and just flip them over every now and then. And this is what they look like, y'all, when it's all done. I just made me some frozen green beans that I sauteed up. But y'all, these hamburger steaks have so much flavor in them. All the stuff that we mix in with that meat in the beginning just gives these the best flavor. You are really, really going to enjoy these. So I expect that all of y'all will be making this hamburger steak and gravy very soon. Okay? So I know y'all want to watch another video, see what else I've been up to, so I'm going to pop y'all another video right up here on the screen. So go ahead and check that one out, and I will see y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.